Graphite is my favorite thing. Whether it's in pencil form or powder or mixed up with water, or especially if it's in tiny little like 0.3 or 0.5 millimeter leads, I just love them. The control and the detail that I can get while I draw, it's just the best. Still, that doesn't mean that I'm blind to the flaws of graphite, and there are definitely flaws. And a major one is graphite shine. You know, that silvery look that turns up, especially in the darker shades, once you've kind of gone into lock in the details in the eyes or in the lips or in the hair or whatever. It sucks. Even if it looks kind of cool and silvery on its own, it's just such a pain to be working on a drawing, and you get that reflection from your working light that kind of makes you have to tilt your head so that you can see what you're doing. So here I'm going to discuss some approaches that I use to either limit or eliminate or at least control the graphite shine. Now, first thing you could do is you could avoid it. I've only recently started doing this myself, but one approach is to grab either a charcoal pencil or a black color pencil, or even paint if you feel that you can blend it in. Just a little touch in the black of the eyes or in the nostrils can work a treat. Now, if you are going to do this, I recommend doing it last. Push your graphite as far as you can and then add your charcoal or chosen medium. It's because if you do add some, for example, charcoal to the eyes, and then you try to add more detail with your graphite, eyelashes or veins or whatever, it's gonna go inconsistent and ugly, and you still end up with a shine and you've got no control over how it really looks. Now, my second bit of advice is to consider the purpose of the drawing. And I did a whole video recently on purpose that I will put a link up there for, because sometimes, it doesn't actually matter if the drawing turns out shiny. And I know, again, this isn't necessarily a fix, but it's a way around. It's a bit of advice. If, for example, you're doing a drawing that will become digital, either for adding some color or some edits in Photoshop, or if, like I recently did, I was commissioned to do a drawing for a book character, and I asked the author beforehand, do you need the original drawing sent to you, or can I just email it to you? And they said that digital is fine. And the trick there is that when you scan a graphite drawing, as opposed to photograph it, the shine pretty much goes away. It's magic. I just want you to take away that if all you need to do is scan a drawing and you aren't planning on displaying it or sending it to a client or anything like that, then break out your 8B pencil, press hard on the paper, make it shine. It won't matter if you're going digital. But now, if neither of these options do it for you, and often they won't, for me, I know that much. If you want to do your whole drawing in graphite, hang it up in all its glory, here is my approach. And I'll call it layering. This is the, I dare say, proper way to manage shiny graphite. And of course, that means that it's the most time consuming. You're gonna need patience. Basically, that shine appears when you get too excited with your shading and you remove the texture from the paper or the board or whatever you're using. It's like when you sharpen a knife, and the more you rub at it, the more you dig into the surface, the shinier it becomes. And paper, even the smoothest of paper, still has little pores to it. And if you get in there too quickly, trying to make dark tones, you can crush that texture and make it flat, like a knife blade. And flat, burnished areas of graphite are where your shine really comes from. So, keeping that in mind, one thing you could do is choose a surface that's a bit more rough. For example, pastelboard is almost like sandpaper in its texture, and it's really weird to draw on. But you can kind of get away with anything. You can kind of do what you want to it without getting a shine. Of course, the rougher you go with the surface, the less coverage you tend to get. And by coverage, I mean as you run your pencil back and forth, you end up with lots of little empty spaces in there. And it's kind of natural to want to then press harder to fill in those gaps. But if you do that, again, you risk crushing the texture of your surface. So here is what I do. Light touches, no matter if I'm using a smooth surface like hot pressed paper or Bristol board, or a rougher surface like pastel board. I use my pencils very lightly. I will shade left to right, up, down, diagonal, in little circles, little hatches, whatever technique I can to fill in all those little divots without pressing too hard. And slowly, all those layers build up to a nice dark finish. And of course, you can assist the process by using softer grades of graphite, though personally I rarely go past a 4B lead, because here's the catch. Darker leads actually tend to have more graphite in them and less clay, and the graphite is what smooths out to get that shine. So while you might think that using an 8B pencil or even beyond is helping you get darker, smoother blacks, you could actually be adding more and more shine to your shadows. So one thing you can look out for are pencils with less graphite in the darks, like the Mars Lumigraph Black series. They add carbon to offset the graphite in the darker shades, but I'm getting a little bit too in depth here, I think, because really, as long as you don't tilt the pencil up and start pressing really hard, then you're in good stead. If you catch yourself though clutching the pencil like you're writing something, then you're probably pressing too hard, and it doesn't matter what graphite pencil you're using, it's going to look ugly. Now, if I'm completely honest, even after you've done all this, you're probably still going to have a bit of shine in there. But if you've been consistent with the pressure of your shading, then it's going to be far less gaudy and gross and a lot less obvious. I hope this was helpful, and I hope to see you back. So go get drawing. Bye for now.